Hello, everyone. As part of the APNA conference on Ayurveda and gut health, my talk today will focus on the brain gut colon nexus. So let me start by sharing my slides. So the brain gut colon connection is not a joke. Charaka in the Charaka Samhitas, in the Sutra Sthana, talks about Trinya Ayatanani, Traya Roga, Traya Roga Marga, Tridosha, and the Trayas Trivida Vakalpa. In all these concepts, the brain gut colon nexus is clearly mentioned and established. The brain gut colon nexus indicates a close relationship between these three organs and suggests that the structure and function of each organ influences the other two. Indeed, even though we think of the GI tract as responsible for food digestion and elimination, this process is also highly sensitive to emotions. Emotional issues like fear, worry, anxiety, anger, judgment, rage, sadness, all of these feelings can affect hunger, digestion, and elimination, and can trigger GI problems, suggesting that the brain has a direct effect on the function of the stomach, intestine, and colon. And vice versa, this influence and connection goes both ways. A troubled intestine or a troubled colon can send signals to the brain, just as a troubled brain can send signals to the gut. Therefore, a person's stomach or intestinal distress or colon problems can be a cause or the product of emotional issues like fear, worry, stress, anxiety, anger, depression. This is especially true in cases where a person experiences GI issues with no obvious physical cause. For such functional GI disorders, it is difficult to try to heal a distressed gut without considering the role of mental stress, thoughts, and emotions. The body of evidence linking healthy eating and healthy elimination to the brain is growing rapidly. A healthy digestive system is more important than we believe, as it is home to a nearly 100 million neurons and a host to hundreds of neurochemicals that regulate the fine balance between the gut and the brain. Now, whether you realize it or not, you have most likely had experiences where the brain affects your gut. For example, the very thought of eating can release the stomach's juices before food gets there. And this reflects in the hunger pangs. Or think back to those times you have felt that strange, unexplained sensation in your stomach before taking an exam or appearing for an interview. This is an example of your brain and gut communicating with one another. When you're happy, content, and positive, your gut is happy as well. People who practice meditation or yoga have better control of their mental state. Hence, they are less likely to suffer from digestive issues. Now, the reverse is also true. Whenever you experience stomach pain, discomfort, nausea, bloating, or acidity, it is the gut communicating with the brain that something is wrong with the food you recently ate. The gut and the colon are a reservoir of beneficial bacteria, the microbiome. And this microbiome is essential to overall health. This microbiome works closely with the body's immune system, nutrient absorption, body weight regulation, blood glucose control, insulin sensitivity, and the production of several neurochemicals and neurohormones. The gut directly affects brain function, emotions, and cognitive health, while diet, lifestyle, and other age-related changes affect the microbiome that in turn triggers most GI conditions, inflammatory diseases and neurological diseases. Poor digestion leads to many gut problems, including but not limited to bloating, diarrhea, acidity, ulcers, and GERD. Further, when you are stressed, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol. This can suppress the beneficial bacteria in the gut and influence the digestive process. When the gut malfunctions, every other body part, including the brain, goes haywire. Thus, having gut issues is neither normal nor healthy. Now, interestingly, the gut also contains 500 million neurons which are connected to the brain through nerves. The vagus nerve is one of the biggest nerves connecting the gut and the brain and sending signals in both directions. We know it in Ayurveda as the involvement of both Samana Vayu and Vyana Vayu. Chronic stress inhibits these signals through the vagus nerve, resulting in GI problems. Now, research studies have found that people with gut problems like irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease have reduced vagal tone. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA or gamma aminobutyric acid are produced by the gut cells and the microbes present in the gut. These neurotransmitters are responsible for the emotional feelings associated with the gut, food, and digestion. Gut and gut microbes also play a very important role in the immune system and inflammation that affects brain function. This can happen when the gut barrier becomes leaky, which allows the bacteria and pro-inflammatory molecules like LPS to cross into the blood. Inflammation and a high LPS in the blood have been associated with a number of brain diseases, including severe depression, dementia, and schizophrenia. The gut bacteria produces about 95% of the body's mood hormone like serotonin, which influences both the gut and the brain and the moods. Research shows that in addition to inflammation, high sugar diets, high quantity of trans fats, and unhealthy diets, all of these influence the moods. People living on such diets are more susceptible to mood disorders, including anxiety and depression. Now, Ayurveda talks about the brain gut colon nexus in terms of having a healthy Jataragni, an optimal Pachaka Pitta, and optimal Samana Vayu, and having optimal levels of Kledaka Kapha. This can be achieved through a proper diet and cultivating healthy eating practices. Now, the philosophy of healthy eating practices and consciously eating food and having regular elimination was equally emphasized in the Ayurvedic texts, the Yoga Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. According to these texts, if digestion and elimination are not optimal, it can trigger imbalances in other systems of the body, including the brain and the mind. Optimal digestion and elimination directly corrects any health imbalance, and in doing so brings an end to suffering and prevents future diseases. Now, most of us experience digestive disturbances routinely in our lives, some acute and some chronic, that can cause both discomfort and embarrassment. Correction of the digestive system is an integral part of the treatment for every imbalance in the body and the mind. One important method is to be in tune with nature while eating consciously. Through food, we connect to nature and become one with it. When we live in harmony with nature, we experience optimal health and digestion and peace of mind. When we are out of harmony, we experience suffering. When we realize the importance of our connection to nature through food and the act of eating, our relationship with food and eating becomes a sacred experience. Furthermore, our close connection with nature also helps us to become aware of the role of the movement of the sun in influencing and impacting our digestion. The sun represents the fire element, tejas, the heat, fire, and light. In the physical body, this is reflected as the process of transformation of the food by the fire, the Jataragni, and the heat of the digestive juices. This involves both Jataragni and the Pachaka Pitta. Thus, at noon, when the sun is at its peak, digestion is very strong and optimal. Similarly, the digestive capacity is at its low during dawn or in the evening twilight when the sun is either rising or setting. Therefore, Ayurveda recommends eating the largest meal during the midday hours and smaller meals in the morning and evening. Such time-based meals based on the sun's position not only prevents weight gain and onset of other digestive related problems, but also ensures a disease-free and long life. The above mentioned principles of eating consciously in tune with the sun's position are now supported by several evidence-based studies, which suggests that you are not only what you eat, but when you eat. These research studies conclude that having lunch as the main meal of the day, that is anytime before 2 p.m., in fact, could help lose weight. Timed eating at or before noon resulted in participants losing an average of almost 22 pounds in 20 weeks compared to late eaters. Late lunch eaters and people with irregular meal times are also at a greater risk of developing metabolic diseases compared to participants who ate timely meals. Now, healthy eating is not restricted to daytime alone. It applies to eating practices during the night as well. According to Ayurvedic texts, a light meal coinciding with the setting sun is a healthy eating practice that keeps the body, the brain, and the mind in a harmonious state. Thus, these texts recommend not to indulge in heavy food after the last meal of the day and to break your fast following sunrise. This indicates that there needs to be approximately a fasting window of 12 hours between the last meal in the night and the first meal the next day morning. So the question is, what happens during this 12-hour fasting window? Well, we now know based on research-based studies that in the absence of fuel during this fasting period, the brain switches from glucose to fat metabolism. This results in the production of ketone bodies. These are specialized fatty acids whose presence has numerous neuroprotective effects. The presence of ketone bodies also leads to significant antidepressant effects and also improves cognitive performances, thus demonstrating a close link between the gut and the brain function. These findings unequivocally demonstrate that the timing of meals is a clear predictor of weight loss effectiveness and having a good cognitive performance. Eating too much or eating the foods that are not suited to your body type will dampen your digestive fire. You want to be doing the opposite. You can also be eating a great diet, but if you are eating under stress and if it is not suited to your body type, your gut will struggle. Researchers also point to the relationship between digestion, sleep, and weight regulation. If the timings of the meals do not match with the sleep cycle, there is a disconnect between the body's biological clock, leading to obesity and other physical problems. Similarly, scientific studies also demonstrate the need to avoid eating late at night in order to prevent sleep issues. By fixing the digestive system, cultivating a good environment that allows good bacteria to flourish, improving the nutrient absorption, and reversing the brain's neuroadaptation to toxic or unhealthy foods, only then can the brain function optimally. Now, in the Ayurveda system of medicine, there is a close link between the brain and the colon as well. This connection becomes very apparent in patients that complain about unexplained headaches or severe pain in the lower spine. Most of them also describe having poor bowel movements, example, skipping for 2 or more days. Now, low prana foods prevent colonic movement. It leads to constipation, and chronic constipation can lead to imbalances in the brain, spinal cord, the skeletal system, and a myriad of colon diseases, including diverticular diseases, hemorrhoids, anal fissures, rectal prolapse, and colorectal cancer. Now, Ayurveda suggests that a well-functioning colon supports brain function, supports the bones, the spinal cord, the joints, and the ligaments, while a poorly functioning colon can create chronic issues in any or all of the above mentioned areas. Chronic constipation and a host of other colon diseases arise primarily from a highly processed, low prana diet that is devoid of fiber, whole grains, and water, that primarily consists of heavily processed grains, refined sugars and oils, fatty meats, and copious amounts of salt. Now, in the United States alone, approximately 20% of the population suffers from constipation, and the cost of treating constipation alone is nearly $800 million a year. If you notice a pattern of missed bowel movements, make sure that you are eating a high prana diet consisting of rich, probiotic, fiber-laden vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and fresh organic dairy. And the next time you have a migraine, chronic low back pain, knee issues, or unexplained joint pain, ask yourself when you had your last bowel movement, because there is a close nexus between the brain and the colon. Now, according to modern science, our body has a second brain, and that is the colon. In fact, scientists use the term colon intelligence because the colon can function without instructions from the brain. The millions of neurons in the colonic tract coordinate the muscle contractions for fecal removal to exit out at a steady pace and in the right direction. This neuronal firing pattern in the colon actually follows a very similar rhythmic pattern to brain waves. And this rhythmic wave pattern is so striking and similar to the brain waves that researchers believe that in addition to removing the waste, the colon also influences our emotions. And that's the reason why they call the colon as the second brain. Acute or chronic mental stress leads to chronic constipation and diseases the colon, and vice versa, as poor bowel movements can result in depression and mental illness. Thus, mental stress and constipation can lead a person into a spiral of despair, depression, or general angst. This realization helps people to take steps to address their colon and normalize their bowel movements. People who are unaware of Ayurveda wisdom continue to complain about the unexplained headaches or joint aches without realizing that to address these issues, they would need to correct their diet, normalize their gut, and stabilize their colon function. Now, in addition to diet and conscious eating, which I discussed in the previous slides, sleep or nidra is as important as a diet in sustaining a healthy and optimally functioning brain, gut, colon. Poor sleep patterns can be debilitating to this nexus as it triggers pathological conditions that affects the structure and function of all the three organs. Research studies indicate that insufficient sleep can disrupt the circadian rhythms that results in negative health outcomes, including obesity, cardiovascular disease, colon issues, and cognitive impairment. Genes affected by poor quality sleep are predominantly associated with metabolic disease, inflammation, immune and stress response, and oxidative stress. So for an optimally functioning brain, gut, colon, Ayurveda recommends a set of daily routines, morning, noon, and night. These set routines of self-care. These guidelines include time of waking and sleeping, elimination, hygiene, massage, mindfulness practices, and diet, both during the day and the night. These routines also include cleansing procedures, bowel habits, yoga, breath practices, and massage. These daily observances maintain the synchronicity of the circadian rhythms with time of the day, night, and seasons. We know this in Ayurveda as Dinacharya, Ratricharya, and Ritucharya, in order to help ward off any acute or chronic conditions. Periodical detoxification, purification, and rejuvenation therapies are classified as Panchakarma therapies in Ayurveda. These are highly recommended for an optimally functioning gut, brain, colon, as they provide the strength and nourishment to these tissues. Oleation and fermentation therapies are very important as they strengthen the brain, gut, and colon. Panchakarma therapies ensure optimal digestion, rapid blood circulation, continuous cerebral blood flow, and efflux of toxic material through increased lymphatic drainage, thus strengthening the brain, gut, colon nexus. Mindfulness practices include a daily practice of yoga, meditation, and pranayama, which helps to keep the brain, gut, colon nexus optimally functioning. Evidence-based studies clearly show that these practices enhance muscular strength and body flexibility. They improve respiratory and cardiovascular function. They reduce stress, anxiety, depression. Chronic pain is removed. It improves sleep patterns. And these practices also enhance overall well-being and quality of life. These combined practices facilitate the transport of oxygenated blood to various organs and body tissues, including the brain, thus eliminating waste and improving the proper coordination of the body, the mind, and the emotions. This sustains the smooth functioning of the brain, gut, and colon. Finally, the other Ayurvedic intervention that is involved in strengthening the gut, the brain, and the colon nexus is Sadvrita, or these are the moral reasonings. These are code of ethics or good conduct, which is required to guide daily living and to maintain a balanced state of the brain, gut, and colon. These guiding principles of proper conduct helps to reflect on the importance of an individual's life extending beyond the single individual. Sadvrita allows the individual to examine one's own values, interpersonal and social behavior. Cultivating Sadvrita or these ethical regimens, including selfless service, honesty, truth, contentment, forgiving, loving kindness, all these ensures optimal digestion and elimination, rapid blood circulation, and continuous cerebral blood flow, all of which helps to strengthen the brain, the gut, and the colon health and sustain the balance between these organs. Thus, to conclude, the brain, gut, colon connection is clearly mentioned and established in Ayurvedic texts like the Charaka Samhita and is now confirmed by evidence-based studies. Brain health requires addressing primarily the gut and the colon, and any issues in the gut and colon can affect brain and emotions as well. Your gut, colon, and brain are connected physically through millions of nerves, most importantly, the vagus nerve. The gut and colon and the microbial environment within it control inflammation and make many different compounds that can affect brain health. A wholesome integrative approach that includes diet and conscious eating, good quality sleep, regular routines, panchakarma, mindfulness practices, and sadvrutta or ethical regimens ensures a healthy and optimally functioning brain, gut, colon, so as to create an optimal health and lengthen an individual's health span by living a harmonious life. So thank you for listening to my talk. Thanks, Dr. Shekhar, for organizing this conference and for providing this wonderful platform to all the participants. Namaste.